So things are heating up. We're already kind of smack in the middle of summer, which is just unbelievable. So I thought I would do a little video on some fragrances I've been enjoying in the heat and look forward to wearing throughout the summer. I'll start with my scent of the day today, which was White Whale by Masque Milano. I really like the offerings from this brand because I think they do a really nice job of balancing uniqueness with wearability. Everything that I've tried has something unique about it that's unlike other fragrances in the genre, yet they're all pretty pleasant and easy to wear, I find. This one starts off with a fresh blast of what to me smells very melony, like a fresh musky cantaloupe. What's listed as osmanthus and violet, and I have a feeling it's the osmanthus that gives that kind of melony impression to me. It's also described as having an ambergris accord, and there is kind of a salty sea spray, although I must say compared to other fragrances that have ambergris, it's not the same kind of accord I've experienced in other fragrances. In addition to that, it says there's a rope accord, which I can really sense. There is really a sense of place with this, like you're on a creaky old boat getting sprayed by the sea. I feel like I've smelled similar things on kind of old wooden structures, visiting old boats, or like theme park boats, those wood boats and theme parks mixed with some of the sweetness of the candy in the air. So it sounds crazy, but it's very wearable and very addictive. The dry down has something almost a little designery about it, something like an ambroxan in the base, but I don't mind it at all because it has so many other unique touches, and I think the transition into the dry down, it really makes sense. And it gives it a very wearable, almost addictive quality. But my favorite thing about this is it's such a different smell for a fresh fragrance. Oftentimes it can be hard. A lot of fresh fragrances start to feel the same, relying on citrus. The other option is kind of sea notes. And this is just such an interesting combination. So something really different that works really well in the heat. I do get, again, the base starts to get a little woody, but mostly kind of musky. So I get a little touch of, I think, the vetiver is adding to some of the woody earthiness. But really a lot of complexity. It seems like the notes could kind of be a hot mess, but actually they all come together really nicely, really fairly easy to wear, unique smell. I was thinking today that the dry down of White Whale actually smells quite a bit like the dry down of this. Afternoon Swim, the famous, the infamous. I struggled with this. I tried it many times last summer. I kind of passed by a Vuitton boutique frequently in my commute, and I probably sprayed it on myself 10 times or so. And I liked it, but the struggle was, is this kind of fragrance worth so much? They've raised prices again. I think now it's $300. And generally I would say, no, it's not worth that at all. There's something about these that smells very synthetic, almost cheap, one-dimensional, but still there's something that separates it. I think what's interesting about this is the juicy mandarin in the beginning is just so vivid. It's really pop art. It's really like this bottle. It's very mass appealing, but it's so glossy and industrial. I feel like I had to just have one fragrance that's representative of this style. But the dry down goes in this kind of salty, also I suspect kind of ambroxany base. Of course, the details between these two are very different, but after wearing this all day, I kept thinking, wow, this base reminds me a lot of the base of Afternoon Swim. Another thing that ultimately sold me is I think the base is not so generic. I don't know if there's real ambergris, it's in the list of notes, but it really, if you smell deeply, has kind of a salty sea funk to the base. So I find that nice that it's not purely kind of by the book, super likable, super safe fragrance. Makes a really interesting transition. Now be careful with that base. People, I think, imagine this is very light and it goes away. The citrus goes away very quickly, but the base lasts and projects quite well. I think you can easily overspray and not realize just how strongly others are detecting you. And that happened to me. I sprayed a lot. I thought it was gone, and someone I was with said, "Oh no, I smell you very strongly." And that's when I was just testing it. So I don't think it's worth the price, but the problem is I can't think of anything that's just like it other than maybe the base of this. But I used some Saks gift cards that combined, and the Vuitton inside Saks accepted those during holiday promotions where you spend so much you get gift cards back. So it knocked the price down a fair amount, and it's probably the only Vuitton I will ever buy, especially they've raised prices again. And it's also kind of the most popular from the line. And I think it's interesting, and it's, given that sometimes options are limited for warm weather, it really does something nice for that. On a cheaper end, but no less nice, in fact, much more elegant, to be honest, much more expensive smelling, Chanel Biarritz. 2 summers ago, I bought Deauville, and that was kind of my scent of the summer. I was visiting Florida, and I wore it a lot on the beach, so I have nice memories of Deauville on the beach. Doesn't that sound romantic? But I bought the Biarritz lotion recently for a lighter summer lotion, and I was loving the smell. The lotion's actually really good. Something about the creaminess of the lotion mixing with the Biarritz fragrance is really satisfying. But it is very light. It doesn't last long at all, but has the brightest. It's light enough I can spray now on top of white whale. Very bright lemon. I suppose if you're not into these notes, it could go lemon cleaner, but I don't mind a zesty in your face lemon. But all of these have, again, very subtle but very beautiful and expensive smelling musky bases. We get the kind of base that could be generic, typical designery bases that we've smelled a million times, but Chanel stays away from that. And I would say this is actually a great alternative to Chanel's Eau de Cologne from the Les Exclusives. If you don't want to smell that much, the base is similar. I would say you just need to spray a lot more of this to get the same white musky base. But again, the other day I had sprayed quite a lot of this and I thought it's nearly gone. I was kind of just re-spraying it throughout the day. But the next morning I was still smelling it. I was smelling the base like something smells really good. I know in Deauville that magic ingredient is Vuitton, which is derived from jasmine, gives this kind of floating cloud of just pleasant floralcy. So again, don't underestimate this. It does feel like it's gone after 10 minutes, but that base will last. And if you apply a decent amount, it'll kind of give you this beautiful halo of scent and a really beautiful fragrance. If you are worried about longevity, I would recommend Perfume Aroma's Aqua Viva. I discovered this last summer and got around to buying this towards the end of last summer. So I look forward to wearing it more now. Again, kind of reference lemon. It very strong, juicy, 3-dimensional, in-your-face lemon. There's a sweetness and a richness to it that keeps it from being, again, kind of floor cleaner lemon. And it's backed up by kind of a piney, woodsy, like a lot of Perfume Aroma. I think they really excel at being very, very natural smelling, but could be criticized for being one-dimensional with fragrances like this. But it doesn't bother me. This is just perfect in super high heat. Keeps you smelling clean, fresh, elegant. And I like the transition from the lemon into kind of the piney, woodsy, junipery, not quite junipery, but base of this. So who knows? I like that they offer this smaller size because Perfume Aroma is fairly expensive and very strong and concentrated, so you don't need a lot. But might be worth a full bottle one of these days for that one. Now you'll notice a theme. I actually love summer fragrances. A lot of people complain that they don't really like summer, they're boring, everything's a citrus. I think it actually might be one of my favorite categories. In a way, maybe it's the challenge to find something. To me, the kind of heavy, boozy, spicy, warm, wintry fragrances, those are the things that actually bore me. But it's just my taste. I like lighter things. I don't like overly heavy, dense, sweet things. So you'll notice a lot of these have similar notes. So Petite Matin, my favorite from the currently available MFK lineup. Again, the first few times I tried it, I struggled a little bit because the base does, again, go a little bit designery with a good slug of ambroxan, which gives a long-lasting trail. I think if there's one thing that Francis Kurkdjian really excels at, it's at kind of a scientific precision in the diffusion and longevity. So it's like a design object where everything functions just perfectly, which can be the beauty and it can be the downfall, because in a way sometimes his line feels like a series of functional fragrances, and sometimes you wish for a little more art. But it seems that ship has sailed in his career, and there's no going back. But this is really lovely. I wore it again for the first time since last year and was thinking how much I really enjoy it. Again, a nice strong lemony open, but I love neroli. Neroli is maybe my favorite, one of my favorite scents, a well done neroli or orange blossom or petitgrain. And this has a beautiful neroli petitgrain with, again, that warm base, which really does make you think of kind of the sun coming up, rising in the morning, and will last you all day. Again, I guess the two main categories here are kind of neroli orange blossom and salty sea. So on the salty side, Sel de Vetiver. This is a pretty strange fragrance, honestly, and don't try it if you're afraid of salt, because it's very salty. It's almost caustic smelling, almost chemical at the beginning. It's so kind of salty and in your face. But where the beauty lies is, again, in the dry down, in the heat. You get this kind of salt-kissed skin effect, which is really beautiful. It reminds me of having spent a full day at the beach, and you've been in the water and the salt is dried on your skin in the hot sun. That's the effect I get from this. Really nice one. This is kind of a maybe old school frag darling. I saw a sale on it and I finally decided to pick it up. It's the only thing I own from the different company. Again, challenging potentially for some. And the vetiver, it's not an earthy vetiver, but the vetiver really gives it legs. It gives it a base to stand on that will last a long time. In a similar category, I've got Les Indémodables Escale en Indonésie. This, again, kind of a sleeper hit from the line. The colognes are cheaper, but this is a cologne with a real ambergris base. And this, in comparison, it's a different kind of ambergris experience. You can tell that it's real. It has a little bit of an oceanic funkiness, but it also feels like, to me, quite a bit of ISO E super, which again is totally fine with me. As long as it's not overdone or done in a boring way, there's nothing wrong with these aroma chemicals, because it has this diffusion and addictive woodiness that I found in Molecule 1. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's something else creating that effect, but I get that airiness and that kind of addictive quality. But it's really beautiful. It mentions citrus in the opening, but I don't get a lot of citrus. I just get this woodiness and this saltiness and a kind of ozonic freshness throughout the wear. Again, lasts quite long. I think there's a touch of oak moss, and I get a little bit of that kind of earthy, mossy greenness as well, but everything is done so light. Beautiful, beautiful cologne. Maybe my favorite eau de cologne concentration real cologne. It's a close contender with Chanel, but the Chanel is beautiful, but almost too beautiful and kind of refined and simple and straightforward, like perfecting the genre, where this is like a twist. This is really something different in the cologne category, and I really enjoy that. Now, this might surprise some, but here we go. A YouTuber talking about a Xerjoff fragrance. I had kind of written off this brand because you just see so many YouTubers talking about it, talking about beast mode. Sounds like the brand values aren't really in line with what interests me about fragrance. I had tried a few. I had tried Naxos. I had gotten a free sample of Tommy Iommi, and I found them overly sweet, a bit cloying, very synthetic, too projecting, too much going on. But I went on a trip, on a vacation, and I only took my Xerjoff samples with me. The other one was Commandant, just as an experiment and kind of challenging myself to see if there's something redeeming about this brand. And I felt like I was wearing someone else's clothes. Like, I enjoyed the fragrance, but felt like, oh, this really isn't me. But it was interesting enough that I decided to buy the sample pack for Xerjoff. And I discovered, hidden among all the big sweet fragrances, is this very simple, beautiful, and refined kind of neroli cologne. Well, not a cologne, but Neo. So Neo, out of all the Xerjoff, it's very quiet, it's long lasting, but it stays very close to the skin. And therefore it has a very elegant trail. And it's just a really done, nice, kind of straight down the middle, kind of musky neroli. And that's just a genre that I love. I think it's really overpriced if you pay full price, but it's readily available on discounters, and I think it's not bad there. Some might find the performance lacking if you're used to other Xerjoff, and for only 50 milliliters, certainly the full price, it's quite a lot for just kind of a simple, well done neroli, but I really enjoy it. It has a greenness at the beginning, a freshness, and like I said, it has a refinement that I really enjoy, kind of an elegance about it that I like. Next up, a new purchase for me, Frederic Malle Salgos. I heard this might be discontinued as it was only a special edition. It's fairly readily available still, but FOMO got the best of me, and Frederic Malle being my favorite brand, I decided to go for it. I had already been thinking about it last summer. My hesitation was I don't usually like sweetness, and this has kind of a bubblegum accord, and that I also thought the dry down was fairly similar to Cologne Indelible. After wearing it more, I think the dry downs are similar, but you can tell the differences. Cologne Indelible is a lot warmer, muskier, more skin-like, more sensual, whereas this stays fresher. I also find, I guess it's ethyl maltol, giving the sweet accord kind of, and the violet candy gives this weird, almost like rubbery, plasticky thing, but that I enjoy. It adds a weirdness to the fragrance that I like, that takes it away from being just kind of a sweet neroli. And I feel like these fragrances really are like all brothers, all of the same genre, and it's one of my favorite genres, neroli, with kind of this musky trail, this musky neroli base. And I think I like that so much because it combines things like citrus and kind of floralcy, a floral, white floral aspect, at the same time sometimes a greenness, a woody twigness. So these three different facets of neroli, petitgrain, orange blossom, are kind of endlessly pleasing to me and provide kind of a lot of variety within a summer fragrance. Finally, Frederic Malle Synthetic Jungle. I've owned a 10 ml of this since the day it came out, but I struggled with how much I liked it. Sometimes I found the green dry down reminding me of like sour apple Jolly Ranchers, this kind of sweet, sour, almost unpleasant greenness in the base that goes on. And that vacillates between, is it this greenness or is it the black currant kind of smell? But recently I wore it on a really hot, humid day, and it was beautiful. The sharpness of that greenness was really appreciated for cutting through the humidity, and I really felt in the humidity the kind of woody hum of the patchouli base. There's nothing obviously patchouli in this, but it's definitely there, giving kind of that woody backbone, which is really nice. And I think the more you wear this, the more you can kind of discover these really interesting different facets of the fragrance. I've always thought artistically it was really well done, but I kind of went back and forth on how much I personally liked the smell. But it really grew on me. I really loved it that day I wore it on the hot, humid day, and looking forward to giving it some more wears this summer. So there we go. There's my summer lineup, and let me know what your favorite summer fragrances are, or if you have any of these, and I'll see you next time. Bye.